Africa, India, and Indonesia right now, but we're expanding globally next year. We basically pick a student leader at a university. They set up a club. They train students on Android, machine learning, cloud, and then they also connect to the local community and solve local problems, work on projects, and showcase what they've built. So we want to expand into Europe, and especially Poland is one of the key markets I want to come bring this program to. So I'd love to talk to more of you about this. And then lastly, the third program is Google Business Groups, GBG. So this is a community program for startups, SMBs, basically entrepreneurs, and it's non-technical content, more business topics. And there is a community here in Warsaw as well. So you can chat with me about that too. So briefly, I'll talk about my 12 years, mostly in the form of locations and airplanes. I spent a lot of the time on the plane. So I grew up in California. Then I went to Stanford and studied psychology and communications. I took one computer science class and wish I had taken more. But anyways, I joined Google. There was a job fair, handed my resume in, and they said, "You're going to do customer support." So I said, "Okay, I'll do it." So I was in sales for 4 years. Started out, I was answering phones, so anybody could call and ask about their AdWords account or just how to get themselves change the internet. I'd gotten a lot of different questions, and I had to answer them. So after that, I flew to London. I was a sales operations project manager and did a 20% project at Campus London. So I managed the mentoring program where we connected Googlers to startups. So I loved that and wanted to do more of it. So then I did a rotation in Singapore. This is the Singapore office in the middle here, basically helping women start businesses online. So I got to go to Pakistan and meet and train a lot of women there. And then a job opened up, so I fully moved to Singapore for 4 years, which is a really cool place, very, very humid. And worked on the developer relations team. I focused on helping startups and developers in Indonesia mostly. And now I live in New York. I've been there for 6 months, which has been really cool, and I'm working more on the global level now. So that's kind of the plane journey. That's 12 years, but what I'm going to focus on now is the 5 things that I've learned through my journey at Google. So the first thing, all about innovating, iterating, and meeting the users when I take on a program or project. Number 2, showing impact through stories. Number 3, it's all about people and collaboration. 4, the power of communities. And 5, reflection is key. So I'll talk about this through the lens of a specific program that I started and led in Indonesia. So one thing we really learn at Google is, innovation is important. That's really the bread and butter of what we do. But also, once we launch something, to really iterate and meet the users, get feedback, and always think about the user first. So I really learned that through this program I'll be talking to you about. But moonshot thinking is something that's discussed a lot at Google. You may know about the Google X team. They launched the self-driving cars, giving internet to the world through this kind of floating blimp in the air. So there's a lot of innovation, and we would hear a lot about this at Google, and they talked a lot about thinking 10x, think big. So I thought, okay, let's do this. Let's innovate and think, what can I start? But I didn't have this huge, groundbreaking kind of global idea, but I thought, what's an idea I have locally? Can I solve for a local problem? Are there any gaps? So I thought I had an idea in Indonesia. This is Indonesia. It's a bit light. There's thousands of islands. So I thought, what's a problem I can solve here? So I talked to a lot of startups and developers, and one thing that a number of startups mentioned to me was that they had a hard time hiring great engineering talent. They said, even if they find someone from university, there's an extensive training needed to get them onboarded, to get them working on the Android app. So after talking to a number of people, I decided, how might we scalably train new and existing Android developers to become more job ready? So I thought through this, how do we do it, and came up with the Indonesia Android Kejar program. So this was a program that combined online learning through the Udacity platform with in-person workshops, training, led by volunteer facilitators, and then working on real-life projects. So basically, to scale this across all of Indonesia, and there's thousands of islands, decided we needed a partner. So we partnered with a company called Kibar to help us find the volunteers and facilitators, and started this in 2015. So I basically pitched the program to my managers, got the budget. So it was really cool at Google that our managers let us, kind of innovate, come up with new things and say, okay, let's test it, and then pilot it and iterate from there and see how we go. So I thought, okay, how is this going? It launched, it seemed to be going well, people seemed happy, but it was really time to meet the users. So I went to the workshops in person, asked a lot of questions, and one thing I realized was, and feedback I got, was that there were very, very few women who were going to these events. So I started talking to the women, and some of them said they just didn't feel comfortable learning Android with men. They said we'd like to work in an environment, learn in an environment with other women. So this was some direct feedback. So we thought, why don't we just pilot this and see what it'd be like to have women's study groups. So it was time to iterate. We piloted Women Techmakers study groups. This was, women could decide, yes, I'd like to learn with other women, or they could learn with men as well, which we definitely encourage. But many women did decide to do this and join these Women Techmakers study groups. This was one of those groups. And we got great feedback. Actually, the women in these groups had a higher completion rate than the women in groups with men, and even higher than the groups in general, actually, in some of the batches. So this was something that we got a lot of great feedback. Some women said, I would not have learned Android if I didn't have the opportunity to learn with other women. So I heard that directly from one woman. So we decided to continue to scale this and have this as an option, and that was based on feedback in Indonesia. So we kept going with that. But then I thought, how can we improve this program further? So I really wanted to go deeper and really get to know the users even better. So I decided to be the user, as you could say. I became a student and then a facilitator. So I started the Android Basics Nano degree. I learned the Android for beginners, and then I became a facilitator, and I taught a group of 8 women over a weekend, and continued to engage with them over WhatsApp and check in. So that was a really cool experience for me. I got a lot of feedback directly from the women, and made a lot of process and overall program improvements based on this, putting myself in the shoes of them and getting direct feedback from them. So in the end, we trained over 17,000 people who completed the program. They attended the online training, in-person workshops, and completed projects. And we also got to show this to the president of Indonesia, and Sundar, our VP, presented this, which was quite cool. So, it wasn't like this huge life-changing moonshot globally, but it was, a smaller moonshot and something that we tested and was working, and we got some great feedback. And it did improve the lives of some people, and they started to build apps and make careers out of it. So that was a really cool experience. And Google provided that atmosphere of innovation, allowing us to test things out, iterate, but always thinking about the user first. And it really helped me to put myself in their shoes and learn myself. So the second thing is showing impact through stories. So you can hear, numbers, 17,000 trained, and here's what we did. But actually what can be a bit more meaningful and can connect with people is the human stories. What is it like to be in the room? So I started to work with a video producer, and we created some videos so people could be in the room and see what it was like, and we could hopefully inspire more people to join and also build their first apps. So I'm going to play one of these videos. It's less than 2 minutes. There are subtitles, but just to put you in the room so you can see what it was like to be there. So this is one study group, one of the Women Techmakers study groups.
Perempuan di bidang IT itu adalah kaum minoritas, jadi saya senang untuk berbagi di sini. Saya hobi mengajar, apalagi di sini ada Women Study Group yang mau belajar untuk mengenai Android atau untuk gimana cara belajar coding, diskusi bareng, untuk sharing bareng ilmu-ilmu kita, sama-sama perempuan kita lebih nyaman.
16 tahun, aku 16 tahun.
What did your friend think about this that you were doing development?
Kayak, kok bisa sih ikut kayak gini gitu, daripada masih SMA gitu.
Mau dilanjutkan, mau bikin splash screen. Kemarin kita udah bikin aplikasi basketball score.
Why did you come?
Pengen nambah pengalaman, terus biar bareng-bareng sharing Android kayak gitu kan, bikin pemrograman Android itu seperti apa kayak gitu.
Is it hard?
Gampang-gampang susah.
Selanjutnya habis belajar ini yang intermediate-nya, nanti ke advance-nya sampai mahir dan bisa ngajarin yang lain teman-teman.
Semua orang memiliki smartphone. Membuat aplikasi bukanlah hal yang sulit. Apabila kalian join bersama kami belajar bareng membuat aplikasi, kita bisa sama-sama membantu orang lain di luar sana.
Indonesia Android Meetup.
So that was Eliza's story. Oops, let me grab that.
Perempuan di bidang IT itu adalah.
Cool. So I got to meet Eliza, and she's since continued to teach other women. She was a student and then wanted to give back and share what she had learned with more people. So this was a video that we shared to show just, as I mentioned, what's it like in the room, and to spotlight some of the people who are building their first apps. And I'll talk through one more story and show the journey of Janice. So I know Janice quite well. She was a student at a university and wanted to, decided that an app would really help her with her final project. So she joined, became a student, joined the Kajar program, did the beginner's course, intermediate course, and then she decided she wanted to be an Android developer. So we actually organized a job fair that connected the students of Kajar with local startups that were part of the Launchpad Accelerator program. So Haruka Adu was hiring. She gave him her resume and got her first job as an Android developer. Then she wanted to give back, share her knowledge. She became a teacher of Kajar and has taught 3 different groups of women. Then she became my mentor as I was learning Android. Java, she basically helped me. I was struggling at different points, and she helped me through it, and was also a co-facilitator. And then she became a speaker. And she got to go to I.O. and everything. So now she's sharing more widely with more people and speaking about TensorFlow. So this is Janice. This is just one developer journey, but this is a story that was shared at Google for Indonesia, and that we share as an example to inspire more people. So basically, what I've learned is, showing impact through stories is really helpful, and something that we do a lot at Google, externally and internally. Number 3, it's all about people and collaboration. Everything we do is teamwork. Every project that I work on involves multiple teams. So even with this program, a different team actually builds the content, all the Android content. This is Catherine Kwan on the right, who I've shared feedback with about the online learning, and she's shared insights with me. So that's one team. Another team, the policy team, sponsored the job fair, and they partnered with the government on this. There was another team that helped us connect with President Jokowi. So it's really a team effort with everything we do. And I also depend on my teammates I brainstorm with them, how can we make this program bigger and better? There's a lot of really smart and creative people, and so we all share ideas with each other. So that's been a huge thing I've learned about at Google. It's all about the people and collaboration. Number 4, the power of communities. So through everything I've been doing, especially the last 4 years, I've loved being part of communities. I've gone to many GDG events. It's a great place to share and also network, meet co-founders. I've seen some of that as well. Through the Kajar program, natural communities were being created. People were hiring other people from these events. People were building startups together. So this is Ibnu right here. He's actually a Google developer expert, and he's led a number of the Kajar workshops, and he hired 5 people. So they're in here somewhere from this program, and now they're giving back and facilitating workshops as well. And I was inspired by communities and created a community for women in tech called Geek Girl Meetup Singapore. And I actually met the co-founders at a startup meetup. So it's just a really good environment to network and share ideas. So I love communities. And that's something I learned about really in the last 4 years at Google. Lastly, reflection is key. So it's really important to take a step back. I tend to just, go, and I've realized in the past few years the importance of really, just pausing and thinking, am I going in the right direction? Do I want to stay at Google? So one thing I do quite often is regular journaling, just reflecting, what do I want to do next? How am I feeling? And what do I want to do in 5 years? And I do that also with work and the projects I take on, just a lot of reflection. Meditation has also been quite helpful, just to pause and be present. But I started to really think in the last 2 years, what's next? And realized that I wanted to go back to school, I wanted to learn again. So I thought I was going to quit, get my master's in education, business maybe. But after a lot of reflection, I realized, I just want to learn and reflect more, but actually I want to stay at Google. So what I decided to do is I'm doing a 4-year psychology and philosophy course in South Africa. We read books, write a lot of essays, do a lot of reflection, get a lot of feedback. It's very actionable. And I fly there 5 times a year for a week at a time, and I've been able to stay at Google. And a cool thing at Google is they encourage, work-life balance, well-being, keep on learning, reflection. So I've really appreciated that and taken it on board and been able to do this. And I'm not getting a master's or even a certificate, but it's something that is meaningful to me and makes me happier in my day-to-day life and at work, and helps me be a bit more creative at work as well. So reflection and pausing has been really important for me, and something highly encouraged at Google. So lastly, just in closing, the 5 things I've learned over the last 12 years is really, before taking on any project, the innovation, iteration, and meeting the users has been essential, and something I learned at Google. Showing impact through stories, that human element, seeing the impact through their eyes is important. It's all about people and collaboration. Everything we do is in teams. The power of communities. And lastly, reflection is key. So that's my 12 years. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and I'd love to meet all of you today. So thank you so much.